Hi there, I'm Father Edward Hauschild and this is Ask a Priest, where I answer some of the questions from the Ask a Priest subreddit. The first question is from Chance Measurement 79 and they've asked about wheat allergies. They've said, I'm curious, how does a Catholic receive the Eucharist when they have a wheat allergy? Well, most of the time, people receive communion with a host that looks like this. This is made with wheat flour and water. So what do we do for someone who has celiac disease or a wheat allergy? Jesus used bread and wine, so we can't use a substitute. Well, for people with some kind of wheat allergy, we have hosts like this. This is a low gluten host. What it is made with wheat flour as well, but through some magical chemistry process that I don't fully understand, they remove the gluten from it, such that there's such a low amount of gluten remaining in the bread that it's safe for people with wheat allergies or celiac disease to consume. My second question for today is not from the Ask a Priest subreddit. This one is from a comment on Facebook, and someone has told me that her son is confused as to why the priest seems to break the communion host at Mass. He asked her apparently, why does he break Jesus? Well, that's a great question, and thank you for asking it. So, one of the things that we're doing at Mass is copying or imitating Jesus as he celebrated the Last Supper. And at the Last Supper, Jesus took the bread, blessed it, and then broke it, giving it to his disciples. So part of the reason that we break the bread is to copy Jesus. He breaks the bread, and so do we. Why did Jesus break the bread at the Last Supper? Well, at the Last Supper, Jesus would have used a piece of bread that looked like this. This is matzo, it's Passover bread, still used by Jewish people today. And if you wanted to give a piece of this to 12 different people, you could just have them bite off a piece themselves, or you could do what Jesus most likely did, which was say the blessing prayer and then break the bread so that it can be shared out to his disciples. So that's the practical reason that Jesus breaks the bread so that he can give it to his disciples. But there's a second reason why Jesus breaks the bread. Because after he's taken the bread and blessed it, he says to his disciples, "This is my body, which will be given up for you." The broken bread is a symbol of his broken body on the cross. It's one of the many ways that the Eucharist comes to symbolize the body of Christ. So it's offered to us, broken, not like this matzo, but instead like this. This is the communion host that the priest uses to break the bread. You can see, you might be able to see if my camera's good enough, it has a score line down the centre so that I can break the host down the middle. Now there is a third reason why priests break the bread at the Eucharist, and that comes from a practice in Rome. In the very earliest days of the Church, when we went to Mass, or the Divine Liturgy as some Christians call it, it was always the bishop who celebrated the Mass. So you'd go into whichever city it was where your community were, you'd go to where the bishop was, and he, assisted by the priests and deacons, would take the communion and break the bread. Now, one of the things that happens as the Christian community got bigger is that not everyone could go to Mass where the bishop was. And so they started founding smaller churches outside. So in Rome, these little churches outside developed a particular practice, which was that they would take the bread, they would break it, and then they would break off another piece. And this little piece would be placed on a silver dish like this, and it would be taken from the parish church all the way to the centre of Rome, to where the Bishop of Rome, the Pope, was celebrating Mass. They would take this little piece of bread from all of the churches in Rome and place it into the chalice, that's the cup that the Bishop of Rome was drinking out of. And it was a symbol that although the Mass wasn't being celebrated in Rome with the Bishop of Rome himself, there was a unity between them, that at every Mass they were sharing in what the bishop was doing in Rome. Part of the reason now we break off this little fragment and place it into the chalice is because across the whole of the Western Catholic Church we copy what was done in Rome, as a continuing symbol of our unity with the Bishop of Rome. This has been an episode of Ask a Priest, where I answer questions from the Ask a Priest subreddit and from the comment section on YouTube and on Facebook. So please do leave a comment if you have a question. Goodbye and God bless. Te